Every once in a while when I'm at the range, I ask my student, do you know why it is that you're pulling the gun to the left? Or do you know why it is you're pulling the gun to the right? And typically they say, I don't know. And to that I say, of course you don't know. Because if you knew and I didn't, then you would be teaching me instead of me teaching you. And for a student to teach a teacher, I find highly rude and presumptuous. Name the movie. Hey folks, I'm Jimmy Flores. Welcome to the Rhino Tactical channel, where we take our experience of over 40 years in police, military, private sector security, practical tactical, and competition civilian shooting and give it to you so that you can take your learning curve and shorten it with our life experience. If you guys enjoy what we're doing here, please like and subscribe to our channel so we can give you more videos that you like. Today, we're going to be talking about the 7 elements of shooting, and we're going to touch on 6 of them. One is not so important, but we will go through all of them so that you guys can see what we're doing. So the 7 elements of tactical and precision surgical shooting are stance, grip, sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control, breathing, and follow through. Now, we're not really going to cover breathing because that deals with more of a rifle shooter where you have to really breathe but relax. In pistol shooting, just breathe naturally. You don't have to pause or inhale, exhale in between shots. There's no rhythm to it. Your natural rhythm will be fine. So again, we are not going to cover breathing because it's meant for rifle shooting. Basically, this is pistol shooting. So there are 2 types of stance. One is the isosceles, the other is the Weaver stance. We're not going to be getting in too much detail into the Weaver other than on the range. Today in here, I just wanted to quickly cover, again, the isosceles stance. Let's get into it real quick. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to stand with feet shoulder width apart. You're going to bend at the knees. You're going to put the weight on the balls of your feet. You're going to move your torso forward, and you're just going to extend. The reason the isosceles stance is far superior than the bladed stance is because when you blade this way, the problem is you don't utilize a bulletproof vest if you're a police officer. They can actually sneak shots in here. Now, also mobility is limited this way, back and forth, and you don't really fight completely bladed. You fight more in this stance right here. So that's why the isosceles, you're facing your target, you're utilizing your bulletproof vest, you have 180-degree visibility, and you can move around really easy. So that's basically stance. Let's see how it applies when we go to the range. Okay, let's talk about stance on the range using an isosceles stance. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to square off to the target. I'm going to put the weight on the balls of my feet. I'm going to bend my knees slightly. I'm going to move my torso forward, and I'm going to basically extend and look down the sights. Now, this is an isosceles stance as opposed to a Weaver stance where you're pushing and pulling and taking your shots off. Again, I talked about the advantages of the isosceles stance, so let's just take a few shots and see what happens. You can see how I can mitigate the recoil. Let's do left-handed first, actually. There's 4 shots left. Let's try 4 shots to the right. And lastly, straight two-handed shooting with the follow-through. Okay, so that is basically your stance. And the nice thing about the isosceles stance is, like I said before, is you're squared off to the target. You have 180-degree vision. You can move left and right. It's like your forward fighting stance. And basically what I like to do is just pull my right foot back just a little bit. Not enough to go into a Weaver, but just enough to stay into an isosceles stance. So that covers your stance. Okay, the next thing we're going to cover, by the way, this gun is completely safe and inert with a dummy magazine, just to get the simulated weight correct. Anyway, first thing we are going to cover is grip. Explain a little bit more on the range. Basically, get your hand all the way up, wrap the fingers around it, wrap your other fingers around it, and just extend. You don't want to induce a tremor by gripping this gun too much. In other words, if you start gripping this gun too much, it's going to start shaking. So learn to relax, firm handshake. And the other thing you don't want to do is re-grip the gun constantly after each shot when you're trying to attain surgical accuracy. I want to sit there and press. Gun goes off. I don't care. Do not re-grip the gun. Just begin to press, and the gun will go off. You'll see a lot of people shot. They re-grip the gun, shot. They re-grip the gun, shot. They re-grip the gun. Just keep it the same consistent grip. Just shot after shot after shot. Let's explain a little bit more on the range now about grip. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is grip. How do we actually grip this gun? Now, I am surrounded 360 degrees, basically, with range, except hills, berms, all the way around. So it's a little bit further, but I'm still surrounded. So this gun is safe. We're going to talk about grip. What I want you to do is grab the gun with your right hand or whatever hand you use. In this case, it's right hand. Bring the gun all the way up with the beaver tail all the way down on the web of the hand. No space in between there. The rest of my fingers are going to wrap around just underneath the trigger guard with my index finger on the frame. I'm going to bring the gun around so you guys can see. Remember, this is safe because I have a berm right there and I'm not pointing at anything. I just wanted to show you guys. Pinky is going to go under this pinky. Ring finger is going to interlace in between there and there. Middle finger in between there and there, and index finger just under the trigger guard. Left thumb is going to go fold down, and then the right thumb is going to fold over the top of it. Now here's the thing. I try to tell people is keep that thumb down, because if you keep that thumb up, you might ride the slide and then do some malfunction. So let's actually see what happens on a a two-handed grip as I shoot this, and let's see the recoil on a two-handed grip. Okay, there you could see that I just recoiled really quick. The gun springs back exactly where it is. That's with a two-handed grip. Now you may ask yourself, well, what's the least amount of fingers and hand that I could have on this? Well, let's give it a shot. Let's see how many you actually need to shoot the gun. So here we go. We're going to 5 fingers, going down to 4 fingers, going down to 3 fingers. Can I get away with 2 fingers, you think? Let's try. 2 fingers. This is all you need to hold the gun. Again, look at this. See how even those are pretty quick follow-up shots. So there you go. That's all you need is 1 finger and the thumb on there. So you guys telling me, did you have to over grip this gun? You do not have to. So that is grip. You basically want to have your hands wrap the gun only as strong as a firm handshake. Point the gun downrange and press. Simple as that. And that is your basic grip. Okay, the next thing we're going to cover is sight alignment and sight picture. We'll explain a lot more of that on the range, but what I can tell you is, again, what I like to say is let the sights dictate the cadence of fire, which means if those sights aren't lined up on target and you are pressing consistently straight back, there is no reason to take the shot if those sights somehow come off the target. If the sights are on the target, then by all means press the trigger. Again, let your sights dictate the cadence of fire. Let's take that exercise out on the range. Sight alignment and sight picture. Sight alignment basically is the two relationship you have here, and that is between the front sight and the rear sight. Sight picture is the relationship between the front, rear, and then the target. So basically, when you want a sight alignment, you want to have the front sight level with the rear sight, and then you want to have the front sight in the center of that rear notch. Then you take that image and you superimpose it on the target and begin your press. Let's try this left-handed, right-handed, then some kind of strange shooting that I'm going to show you just to prove a point, and then we'll do both-handed shooting. So let's go ahead. We're going to load up. I'm going to do it left-handed. Again, I'm going to line up the sights, doing my same stance. Take my right hand, put it on my chest, and I'm going to basically line the sights up and press. Line the sights up, press. I'm going to do it right-handed now. Pointing at the target, line up the sights, press. Line up the sights, press. Again, let's do it two-handed. Now, actually, I can shoot this one other way, but let's do the two-handed first. As long as those sights are lined up, I'm going to hit my target. Now, I can shoot this gun any way I want, leaning over this way, that way. As long as my sights are lined up, I'm going to hit the target. Now, you say, well, how far can he go? Well, let's see. Can I shoot this gun upside down? As long as my sights are aligned, same logic applies, right? Let's try. So here we go, upside down, lining my sights up and hitting, lining my sights up again and hitting again. So you can see as long as your sights are aligned and on the target, you will hit every single time. So that is sight alignment and sight picture. Okay, the next thing we're going to cover is trigger control. Now we're going to get into this in great detail on the range, but I wanted to show you the shot sequence and prepping and letting the trigger reset itself. So basically, the trigger is cocked and ready to go right now. You are going to press that trigger straight back, straight back, straight back. When you hear it click, You're going to allow the trigger to come forward, keeping your finger on the trigger. When you're back online, you will let the trigger out, only to where you hear that reset. Once you hear that reset, you press, 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 and shot sequence goes through. Release the trigger, hearing the reset, bring back the trigger, press, 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 just like that. And here's what it sounds like when you're going at high speed. See, every single time that that shot goes off, I am allowing the trigger to reset itself, and then I'm prepping it and coming straight back. Prepping just means picking up all the slack. Okay, so letting it reset forward, not more forward than I need to. I'm not slapping the trigger, which means I'm keeping my finger married to that trigger. I'm not bringing it off, and I'm pressing the trigger through the shot sequence, keeping the trigger all the way back to the shot sequence. Once I get online, then I can release the trigger and come back. Now, it's a little bit different for me because I'm used to prepping the trigger a different way. Everybody learns the different movements and how they want to prep that trigger. So for me, I'm just instantly, as soon as the shot goes off, I'm prepping the cycle again through it. So that is called trigger control and prepping the trigger. Let's go to the range and talk about where my finger is actually going to make contact with the trigger. So basically, here is the gun safe. The finger is going to basically not be too far extended into the trigger guard or not underextended out of the trigger guard. We basically want this picture on our finger when we pull our finger back after imprinting it. Basically, it needs to want to be on the end. I don't know if you guys can see that. There we go. It's on the end. Basically, the end of the meaty part of the finger is where you want that finger to make contact with the trigger. The reason is because if you're too far into the trigger, you're going to end up pushing it. If you're too outside of the trigger guard, you're going to end up pulling it. So you want to be just on the meaty part of your finger. Now let's see what it looks like when I actually use trigger control to press that trigger back. Now remember, what I'm doing is I am keeping my sights aligned on the target, and I'm just doing a smooth, straight, consistent press straight back, achieving a surprise break, meaning whenever the gun goes off, it goes off. I don't care. So let's do a few shots. Do a few shots left-handed. Now watch my trigger. I'm pull, press, 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 and the shot breaks. Again, back on target. Press, 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 press. The shot breaks. Right-handed, the same thing. Same meaty part of the finger on the trigger. I'm going to align the targets. Press, 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 press. There it is. Align the target again. Press, press, press. Now let's do double-handed. So two-handed going in, same thing. Come up on the target, and now I'm just press, press, press. Gun goes off. Let the gun recoil. Press, 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 press. Back and back. I don't know if you guys can pick up that I am prepping the trigger every single time, which I'm going to talk about follow through. Trigger control is basically that, is utilize the trigger where you want the meaty part of the finger. Then I'm going to press, 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 press back. Every single time the gun comes, I'm going to reset. Hear that little click, and then I'm going to press again. Now, for me, I reset incredibly fast because I've been doing this over 1,000,000 rounds, so I can reset that trigger fast. Now watch me reset the trigger. You won't even hear it as fast when I shoot fast. See, you're not going to pick it up, but subconsciously I am resetting the trigger in between each shot. So trigger control basically is utilizing the finger to press the trigger back consistently, achieving a surprise break while you are lining up those sights. Okay, now you may ask, well, how hard do I need again to press that trigger? Well, again, the thing is like, remember, if you grip that gun super tight, we talked about grip, you will not have any dexterity in that finger. But if you loosen up a little bit, a firm handshake, now you can do twirls and twists and ABCs with that if you want. So it's all about being relaxed, putting the gun on target, and using your skill that you've learned. It's that simple, and that is trigger control. Okay, the next thing we're going to cover in the 7 elements of surgical precision shooting is follow through. Follow through, basically what I could tell you in the studio is that you basically want to not anticipate. Again, on the range, we're going to go into this great detail of how we do it, but just don't anticipate. Don't put any thoughts in your mind, or I'm going to dip the gun forward, or I'm going to bridge against it, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Do not anticipate. We're going to go on the range right now. I'm going to show you a couple of drills on how you do not anticipate and you just have good follow through, meaning that you press the trigger and wait a little bit after, keeping the sights aligned. Then the gun comes up, you go through, looking again, boom, gun goes off, looking again, and prepping the trigger and pressing the trigger and following through a little bit after. We'll explain a little bit more on the range now. Now let's talk about the last element that we're going to utilize, and that's follow through. good follow-through is basically designed to keep you from anticipating. If you don't have good follow-through, then all kinds of other problems are going to arise, such as imagine a baseball batter. He's taking a swing at the ball, and all of a sudden he just gets used to doing this the whole time. Just gets used to doing that. Well, now when it comes and the pitch is faster, he's going to do like that and totally anticipate the shot. You don't want to do that. You want to just follow through, which means you stay on target every single time through the shot and after. And that will provide you with no anticipation. Now, I've taken this magazine and I've actually loaded it so you can see with some live rounds and some rounds that are not going to function. So we're going to go through that, and I'm going to show you how every single shot should be the same regardless of whether there's a live round or an empty round. Now, I may flinch too a little bit because this is an exercise and we're all human. However, if it's done correctly, there should be no flinch at all, whether it's a live round or a dead round. So let's give it a shot, two-handed shot. Here we go. Okay, two-handed shot, anticipation drill. Nothing. Gun moved a little bit on that. So let's try it again. See, gun's going to move a little bit, but that's just because of my natural recoil and how I handle it. But as long as you're not moving all over the place and you just barely move the gun. So just try to relax and let's see if we can achieve zero movement. Gun does go off, and what I'm experiencing is I'm hitting the back of the trigger bow with the trigger, and that's why you see the gun jump a little bit. That's not anticipation, actually. So again, we're going to cycle it through, and let's see if we can do it again. Just training yourself to have nice follow through. And that's basically it. If you use that drill where you have empty and live rounds, you can train yourself to just relax, and the only movement, minuscule movement that you should have is basically what I had, where the trigger, back of the trigger is actually hitting the frame, causing you to have a little bit of motion, just a little bit, but not enough to jerk the gun out of the way or anticipate. So the thing is when you are utilizing this exercise correctly, you shouldn't be anticipating whatsoever, or just minuscule anticipation that you are used to. In other words, you're used to running a certain way. You don't want to alter that train of thought or path, whatever you're going to use. You want to always train the way you want and achieve correct follow through. That's why dry firing is so important. I dry fire so many every day. All the pros do. We dry fire in the morning, 40 minutes at night, 40 minutes. Super simple. All we do is put the gun up and press. Put the gun up and press. Coming from the target, from the holster, straight up, press. 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 See, so you just want to make sure that you have good follow through, and actually dry firing helps a lot. So I recommend that you do the empty round and live round magazine technique on this to utilize that, and then dry fire like crazy. You should be able to keep the gun, the sights aligned, and press through that trigger, and it should not move at all. Or if it moves minusculely, not a lot, that's okay too. However, you want to strive for zero movement other than the trigger hitting the back of the grip. That is follow through. Lastly, I wanted to show you guys my equipment. I talked about it a little bit before in the studio, but wanted to show you that everything that I am using is completely stock. This is actually a replica of my LAPD duty gun. It is a Glock 22 in .40 caliber. Has no magazine well on it. It has regular police sights on it. The trigger is a 6-pound trigger. So if I could utilize fine dexterity and hold this gun from going crazy, then a stock gun, then you guys can actually do it too. A lot of competitive shooters shoot 9mm. I didn't really like that. I shoot 9mm in a pistol caliber carbine, but for competition, since this is what I carry on duty, I like to compete with a .40 caliber. Now, the bullets that I was using were also stock. They were not underpowered. They were blazer rounds, .40 caliber plus P. And I wanted to show you guys with stock guns, all my exercises, if you notice when I do my exercises in the studio, I'm doing it like speed reloads without a magazine well funnel on it or anything like that. It's just basic stock. So if you can train yourself on a stock gun, then when you get a magazine well and you get tricked out, you go down to 9mm, then it's going to be like shooting a BB gun. You're that much more in defense and in competition. So that's a little bit of my equipment that I use today. So if I could do it with this stuff, you guys can do it with this stuff and tricked out stuff. Just practice and it'll be great. We'll talk to you guys later back at the studio. So there you have it, guys. I hope you were able to learn something today from the 7 elements of tactical shooting. Now get out there, go give it a try, and try for consistency. And if you make a mistake, just do it again, but give yourself a lot of patience. We'll see you later on the next big one.